What you just witnessed was the records of my first night in Togo. I went straight from the airport to a hotel, a nice hotel. But whenever it was time for me to take a shower, I left my phone outside of the bathroom door, and then I locked the bathroom door with me inside, and then the lock fell into the palm of my hand, the entire thing. And long story short, the hotel staff had to break open my door with a hammer. I am a Peace Corps volunteer, so I will be in Togo for 2 years and probably a little extra. And I'd like to say that that first night was my worst night in Togo, but sadly that is not the case. To be completely honest, the second night I was calling my mom in tears, telling her that I was planning on getting on the next plane back to the States. We had just taken a drive from Lomé, the capital, to Pagala, where the training center is, which is about a 5-hour car ride, which is also about halfway up the country. And I was experiencing a major culture shock. I'd been on cruises before, and on like Jeep tours or whatever, they would show us these rural areas as we were going from one attraction to the next. And I thought to myself, oh, okay, well, Togo will probably be, something like a rural area like that. No. There is no resorts, there is no place to park cruise lines in Togo, and it was kind of hitting way harder than it probably should have. I was definitely very, very naive, and I was also feeling extremely homesick. Usually, whenever I would travel alone in the past, whether I was to study abroad or whenever I did a internship in DC, the excitement of being in a new place would kind of distract from that homesickness for a few weeks, but here I just perceived absolute nothingness from Togo, and the feeling of isolation hit immediately. However, I have now been here for about 6 months now. I'm a quarter of the way in, and I can very much say that there's a lot more to Togo than what I thought. So yes, being here in Togo has been very, very hard. And the first few weeks, even months, have probably been the hardest of my life. And I think the first time I started feeling not depressed was about a month and a half ago from when I'm recording this right now. So about mid-October. Oh no, that's only about a month ago. Well, shoot. But as I am now reaching that 6-month clarity, I can say that honestly my time here has been hard but rewarding. It's cliche, but it is very true. So first, a quick overview of what the heck I've been doing for the last 6 months, and then I will speak about my peaks and my troughs. So on June 9th, I don't even think that date's right, actually. On June 7th, me and 13 other stagees all flew to Philadelphia for a 2-day training period where we learned the danger of a single story and how to build a self-other bridge, as well as meet each other for the first time, which was very interesting. And it's so funny now, these people are actual real people and they were my friends, and before they were just weird fictional scary strangers. And then after those 2 days we took a direct flight from the US to Lomé, And you know how that first day went, and besides from the whole hammer door thing, it would have been a stressful day anyways. And then the next day was also very stressful. The training center itself was very nice in Pagla, but within the first week, by the first Saturday, we had begun what is known as in-village training. So we would be living with a host family for the next 12 weeks in a nearby village. And these families, they didn't speak any English, and mine didn't speak much French either. So the communication was not there, but I loved them. I loved my host mom. She had a fighting spirit. I like the sounds people make here. Like instead of going like, they go, cream of the crop. And she'd go, oh. I love that woman. We never understood each other, but at a deeper level, we did. And I loved her. So during training, again, 12 weeks, we were trying to learn how to speak French. I didn't know any French. Trying to learn a little bit of our various local languages, which would vary depending on where your permanent site was. I believe we found out our permanent sites 3 weeks in, and then a few weeks after that, we met our supervisor. So for me, that was the director of my school, as well as a SIF, which I have no idea what SIF stands for, but it's basically just like a community person who's basically kind of my dad here, even though I was supposed to also have a host dad, but I have talked to that man like maybe twice. Yao is where it's at. My SIF, Yao. But yeah, we met those two people, and then we were taken to our permanent site and dropped off for 12 days and had to find a way back ourselves, which at the time was very frightening, and now feels like a walk in the park. I'm also really glad that we did do in-village training, because by the time that we had our site visit, my village and mi casa, ma maison, was looking pretty luxurious. Like, look at all the space. C'est beaucoup. So after those 12 days, we went back to training for a few more weeks, and then we headed back to the capital for the first time for our swear-in ceremony at the new Peace Corps headquarters, which the swear-in ceremony was a lot of fun. I gave a speech in Ewe. And it was really good. And everybody was calling me the Ewe Queen, which is a true story. Also, going back to Lomé after being in village for several weeks, months, was honestly a mini cultural shock. And since then, I have just been back at my site for several months, teaching Sengium, which I believe is kind of like the American equivalent of 7th grade. So I think I want to start with my peaks, the best things here for me personally. Number one, the first thing that I always think about is the goats. I think that the goats were honestly my first friends, aside from the volunteers. Honestly, maybe even before the volunteers, the goats were my OGs, day ones. I've never thought about goats that much before in my life, but I love them here. They're so freaking cute. Literally every single time I would go to use the bathroom during my training, I would literally walk past 3 baby goats seated right outside my latrine, and they were so cute, and I love them. And everybody else thinks the goats are really annoying because they scream all the time. I think they're hilarious. I think they have a lot of personality, And I think Togo has the correct goat ratio going on that the rest of the world should really be trying to replicate. Number 2, my cohort. I love my cohort so much, and I am also very fortunate to live not that far away from a lot of other volunteers. So every Saturday, or just about every Saturday, we have been meeting up in 2 of the closest cities and getting lunch together, and that has been a huge bonus, and honestly has been what's kept me together for some of my harder times. Number 3, my students. I actually really love my students a lot. I never wanted to be a teacher ever before in my life, had no interest whatsoever. However, I started teaching, and within my first week of practicums, we had 2 weeks during training where we taught at a local school for practice. I actually realized that I actually really like it a lot, and that was very surprising to me, especially because I still can hardly speak French, and I cannot at all speak local language. And so a lot of what I'm having to teach is just a lot of like charades and drawings to try to explain my point, because we also don't really have a lot of technology access. So it's a lot of just drawing on a chalkboard and having to act stuff out. And it's honestly really fun. It's kind of like a little game of Pictionary. And my students are awesome. They have given me lots of fun bracelets that they are making during class because they don't listen to me. They've also given me cute little flowers, and I don't know, they're just so sweet. I love my students. They are good kids. Number 4, my free time. I have a lot of free time here, which at first was like super intimidating because I went from having a very go life in college, being a student, having a job, having extracurriculars, having a boyfriend, to all of a sudden having hours and hours and hours of nothing but free time. But it's honestly been really nice. I've started reading, which didn't know I could do that. I also wrote a short story, and I have continued painting, and I've started going on runs, which I recommend if you're doing Peace Corps to go on runs, because it gets you get an excuse to go outside and get some vitamin D. Number 5, the fruit. The fruit here is delicious when it's in season. Now, it's not always in season, so you can't always get fruit, but whenever you do have access to fruit, the
pineapples here.
Game changer. Mangoes here. We're about to reach mango season. I got a mango tree right outside. Number 6, the pawn. The pawn here is super cool. Pawn is like fabric. Pawn is fabric that they use for basically everything. Okay, so here's the new dress. I asked for a hairband as well if they had any extra material, but I didn't get a hairband, which is honestly okay because I only bought 1 piece of fabric, and usually I give them 2, so I'm just kind of like, usually 1 is just for a skirt, so I'm actually happy that they're able to make this. It has pockets, like it should. It has like the cute little V line action going. From tablecloths to clothes, obviously, to towels, and it's super cheap. You can get it at any market, and then you go to your local tailor, you tell her or him what you want, they make it for you super fast, and it fits you. Love pawn culture, super cool. Number 7, the people. My first glimpse into how awesome the Togolese people were was with my language tutors back in Pagla, and they were just so awesome, so sweet, so funny. I love them. And then here coming to my village, the other teachers at my school are super friendly, so nice. All the local people, they recognize me because I obviously look, they know me. They know me. and they are also so incredibly friendly and sweet. I'll go on a run and everybody's saying, "Oh, good morning, good afternoon," very sweet. And with that, the kids specifically here are peak. I love the kids here. They're so freaking adorable, so helpful too. The kids were my first friends here in Togo. This little 6-year-old, 7-year-old? This little kid kicked me a soccer ball and I kicked it back to him. And then within a few minutes, he brought all of his friends over. And then from that day on, I have had little kids coming up to my door and wanting to play soccer with me, play Duolingo with me. We've painted before, we've played with balloons and water guns. And yeah, those are my best friends.
Yeah, what we doing? Nothing. Megan. C'est joli. C'est joli.
Now for the troughs. I already talked about how teaching is one of my favorite things in service, which it is, but it's also one of my most challenging things, just because there's just way too many kids in my class. I have 70 students per classroom, which isn't even the most. Ron, name drop, he has like literally 90 something. I'm pretty sure Zach, other name drop, had over 100 at one point. So it's basically like a college lecture, but they're all around pre-teen to teen to possibly older than me age, and they struggle to understand me at all. They don't usually respect my authority, which is pretty understandable. There's just not enough resources, and I don't even blame them for not wanting to pay attention, because the learning environment and the education system, the curriculum here is just, I don't blame them for not wanting to pay attention. It does drive me crazy because they truly never stop talking. Number 2, I did have a parasite. Number 3, no air conditioning. There is really not any air conditioning anywhere, which isn't surprising, but it is hot all the time. In all seasons, it is hot. Number 4, the food. It's just not my personal taste. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that, again, it's not my personal taste. Togli's food is kind of interesting because it looks like an empanada, right? Or like a little pie. Spaghetti noodles. Plain spaghetti noodles. And there's also just not as much access to other kinds of food. So, for example, whenever I was sick and I didn't know what I had, I just wanted like a grilled cheese and tomato soup, and I could not get those things. I guess I could have made a tomato soup, but I just wanted something easy, and there's no easiness here. There's no fast food. And again, not surprising, but sometimes you really just want fast food. And sometimes you just want a nice coffee. And sometimes that really gets me upset that I can't have that. Number 5, PST, pre-service training, those 12 weeks that I was talking about. During that time, I remember thinking that this was going to be the best time in my service, because it was going to be the only time that I was going to be consistently seeing the other volunteers every day, and I was going to be busy, so I wasn't even going to have to be thinking about how lonely I was, and I'd be closer to the training center, so I could every once in a while have the food that they make there, which is really good, actually. But now that I'm several months removed from that, I now realize that that was the bad place. That was the bad time. That was the very hard time, because we were training literally from first thing in the morning. I'd get up at like 5. We'd start class at like maybe 7. And we would have training all day until 5, 6 again, p.m. So it was an all-day thing. It was very stressful, and everything was new, and all of the growing pains were very painful. And living with a host family, again, I loved my host family. I thought they were very sweet people. It was still just difficult. My room was, for whatever reason, my host mom like boarded up my one window, and I also didn't have electricity for 2 weeks. So it very much felt like a prison cell. Extremely hot, no fan, no way to have air blowing, and obviously no light. So that was not fun. Number 6, the people. And now I already said that they're one of the best things about my service, which I agree. However, they also can be challenging, and it's nothing against them personally. It's just the situation that we're both in, because I can hardly speak their language. They can hardly speak mine, if at all. And so we just really struggle to communicate with each other. And even if I spoke fluent French or fluent Ewe, or they spoke fluent English, there's still gonna be that cultural divide, because it is an intense cultural divide that still blocks us from really being able to see eye to eye. And with that, it feels very isolating at many times, because I'm not able to form as many deep connections as I would be meeting new people, say in the US or even in Europe. And another struggle I find with people is just the fact that I do stand out so much, which even if I wasn't a literal walking highlighter with my skin, I would still stand out because of the way I dress, the way that I talk. I'm sure even the way I walk is differently. Just everything about me is very, very American and very different. And I know that I'll never be able to blend in, but there are days where I really wish that I just could. Going on runs, for example, I'm not really in the mood to stop and say hello to everybody. Going to the market is also a big trouble, especially with male attention, which I'm never in the mood for. I unfortunately get way more than I'd like to. The kids, I love the kids, but the little ones, and even some of the older ones, they have a little song called Yovo Yovo Bonsoir, Yovo Yovo Bonsoir, which at times is really cute and charming. Yovo is like a word for foreigner, which at times is really cute and kind of charming, but other times I'm just not in the mood, especially whenever I hear it literally every time I leave my house. Number 7, the thing that sucks the most is missing home and missing my family. I love my family. I love them. And I'm also in a long distance relationship, which shockingly is sometimes challenging to be away 6,000 miles from your significant other and your best friend and all your friends and your family, which I knew that that's what I was signing up for, so I guess I don't really have a lot of room to complain about it, but it is something that just never goes away. And it doesn't matter how much I get integrated to my community here, how much I befriend the other members of my cohort, the other volunteers. It doesn't matter how much I'm content within, I will always miss them every day. Luckily for me though, I am going home for the first time pretty soon. I will be there for Christmas and New Year's, so for 1 week. I've been told to expect another really intense culture shock, and even that that might be one of the hardest things for me is going back. Or if that's not going to be the hardest thing, then getting on the plane to come back to Togo might be even harder than going in the first place, which I don't know if that's possible. And if it is, hopefully not. I have faith that it's gonna go well, and that it'll recharge my batteries, and that I'll feel even more ready to go through the next 7-month stretch before I get to go home again. But who knows? Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So I'll see you next June for part 2.